like,
Texas is getting there. I think Sark has done a great job of roster building at Texas, where we've talked about this. They started creating NFL players again, and you see, like, when you see Tavondre Sweat playing for the Titans, like, he's one of the bright spots for the Titans this season. Tavondre Sweat was a guy that actually for Texas wasn't even a big recruit, but they developed him and turned him into an NFL caliber player. And then they're also either recruiting or bringing through the transfer portal these guys that are freaks. I mean, think about Colin Simmons is a freak. Like, Gunnar Helm is a freak.
But
these guys are great.
If you're wondering why Ohio State is in the position that it's in, it's because of Jeremiah Smith, sure, right? And it's probably because, to a certain extent, Will Howard, by the way, played his best game as a Buckeye yesterday. And it is probably partially because of Quinshaw Junkins. But, like, if you look at, like, their defense, they also paid and got Caleb Downs, right? Like, they spent money on that in the portal.
That's the best player. Is Caleb Downs? Well, he's not the best player who was ever in the transfer portal because Joe Burrow and Kyler Murray were transfers. But
it's Joe Burrow until
he's up there.
Yeah. Well, the thing that's scary, and then I'm going to finish my point, is that Jeremiah Smith's got 2 more years after this, and Caleb Downs is still a sophomore. Like, I think people forget that he's coming back next year. But it's also, Ohio State's also in this position, not just because of those acquisitions. It's in this position because Denzel Burke's not playing in the NFL. And Denzel Burke got torched by Evan Stewart in the first Oregon matchup and then got thrown out once yesterday. Yeah. Like, Jack
Sawyer would have been a 2nd or 3rd round draft pick had he gone out.
Like on the Bengals right now or something.
Yeah. The Bengals could really use him right now, actually. But I digress. So,
and he's also, like, Jack Sawyer is playing the best football of his career. Like, Ohio State's seniors are ascending all at the same time that they're getting the same output from Caleb Downs and getting the same output that you could expect from Jeremiah Smith and Emeka Egbuka. These are all pre-NIL dudes who are now making NIL money. So like, they are in a really good spot. And it was a masterclass, really, Andy, of assembling a roster, as somebody calls me an Ohio State hater. Okay.
Well, let's talk about the other roster that they're going to play against in the Cotton Bowl, because it's a pretty capably assembled roster as well. Texas, they struggled to beat Arizona State. They gave up a 16-point lead in the 4th quarter. They needed a miracle on 4th and 13. They thanked Arizona State for running that 0 blitz. But I've been thinking about the Quinn Ewers thing, because you said we got to have the Quinn Ewers Arch conversation, and I'm like, do we really? Because he still made the throw on 4th and 13 that needed to be made. Like, I don't know that we need to have that conversation. I think Ohio State obviously has a better defense than Arizona State. They will challenge Texas. I think this could look like that's the 2 Texas-Georgia games where both offenses struggle more than they've struggled against other teams.
And I don't know unless something radically changes how they're going to score, dude. Like, I'm at that point. Like, we've been talking about Texas's offense needs to snap out of it for a month now. So if you don't want to have the Arch discussion, that's great. But
I don't think they needed to snap. Like, they were fine in the Clemson game. Like,
yeah, because Clemson stinks and had, like, the number 101 rush defense in America. Like, that's why
we need Texas's offensive line. If you want to see Texas score and compete with Ohio State in this game, Texas's offensive line needs to look like it did in the Michigan game. You and I were in Ann Arbor, and we're stunned at how well Texas's offensive line. And look, obviously Texas has 5 NFL players on the offensive line. We'll see. Cam Williams should be back for this game, by the way, the right tackle. He missed yesterday's game, but he was kind of like, if needed, in case of emergency, break glass, he could play. He'll be able to play next week. But against Michigan, full strength defensive line, Michigan, early in the season, everybody healthy, that Texas offensive line looked dominant. It does not look like that. It didn't look like that in either Georgia game. It didn't look like that yesterday. Like, it's got to get back to that.
Yeah.
You've had Wendy's Nugs dipped in sauce, but have you had them covered in sauce? Wendy's new saucy nugs take the crispy and spicy nugs you love and turn them up to 11. Choose between flavors like honey barbecue, garlic parm, buffalo, or if you're a real heat seeker, try the spicy ghost pepper only on Wendy's signature saucy nugs. I dare you. That's 7 delicious ways to try the nugs you already love. Pick a flavor, grab some extra napkins, and prepare to nug like you have never nugged before. For a whole new way to nug, it's got to be Wendy's at participating U.S. Wendy's. Because they have to be able to run, not necessarily as well as they ran the ball against Clemson, because that was a case of that defense is not very good at stopping the run. But you've got to be able to run the ball some against Ohio State, or you're not going to be able to throw the ball at all either.
This isn't a sack-adjusted number, but Texas rushed for 1.8 yards a carry.
Against Arizona State.
Sorry, I blacked out. But I do think, too, that, like, Matthew Golden and, like, the game that he had, like, is what you would want to see from a Texas receiver, because their playmakers haven't really been, like, as Isaiah Bond has been injured, like, you know, I thought he played a really good game. DeAndre Moore is somebody who came in with a lot of hype, and, you know, he had a pretty big catch on a 4th down conversion.
Ryan Wingo had a big catch too.
And Ryan Wingo is a really, really good young player. I just want to see consistent production out of these guys. And I don't like, here's the thing. You know, something's up, right? Like, you watch Texas and go, there's something not working. And you might, like, look at it and go, offensive line, right? But at the same time, too, do you believe that there is a Quinn Ewers discussion, or do you think that's the... Did you lose me?
You're good. You're good. It's an Andy computer issue, not an Ari mic issue. I apologize.
Okay. Oh, thank God.
For that.
Do you think that any of this is Quinn Ewers discussion, or do you think that that's the low hanging fruit because quarterback is the easiest position to criticize?
I think it's a little bit of both. I also don't think we have the information, because I don't think the 2 starts from Arch necessarily gave us enough info to say he's definitively better than Quinn Ewers. And also, I think Steve Sarkisian has shown he's a pretty good football coach, and he continues to have a lot of faith in Quinn Ewers, and I think probably we should respect that.
Yeah. My prediction coming into the game, the playoff, was that Texas would advance to the national title game, but would change their starting quarterback in the middle of it. And that's probably not going to come true. But I think the spirit of that prediction is, like, kind of presenting itself right now. And I wonder, at the very least,
I'll turn the question around on you. Do you think the only way Texas beats Ohio State is if Arch is running the offense in crunch time?
Yeah. I think that the only way that Texas beats Ohio State is if Arch comes into the game and provides an element that Ohio State's not prepared for, or that Ohio State's surprised by. Like, I don't know if Quinn Ewers is going to go out there and beat that Ohio State defense without a Jeremiah Smith on his team. Like, how are they going to? Because Ohio State's going to score 38, 35 points probably, right? Like, that's just going to happen. Like, I don't know if that's...
based on what we've seen the last 2 weeks, I think that's a reasonable assumption.
So, like, because, like, did Texas go literally 3 quarters without scoring much?
2.5. Yeah. I mean, it was basically
scoring
the middle of the first quarter until the start to the middle of the fourth quarter.
Fourth quarter. And can we be honest? Like, Arizona State, heartwarming story, are not the 2000 Ravens out there. So, like, you know, with what they're
missing some of their best players.
They should have been able to score a bunch more. And honestly speaking, like, on the first possession, I was like, oh boy, is this hot Texas? Is this the team that we thought was in there? And then, you know, for 2.5 quarters, it's like, okay, well, here we go again. You know, and I don't know, like, when's the last time Texas put out an offensive effort that you were like, wow, into it? This team's got it. Like, it's been a long time.
The last time they were just clicking on all cylinders on offense was the Florida game, but that was the one where DJ Lagway didn't play, so they knew Florida wasn't going to move the ball at all.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you're terrified. You're terrified of making a mistake against Ohio State because they can punish you on the other end. You're terrified against making a mistake against Georgia because they can punish you on the other end.
The thing here is that the spread's 5 points, right? And you have to acknowledge the fact that Texas has an amazing offensive line. And I don't know if the data in the spread is accounted for this, but Ohio State's defensive line was pretty bad at like getting to the quarterback and sacking him in big games. And I think they sacked Dylan Gabriel
until yesterday.
a
Oregon
ton.
has a good offensive line too.
Times.
Yeah.
So like Ohio State's defensive line is playing the best football it's played all year. So I mean, I guess like the path to victory for me is running the ball well, controlling the ball a little bit, moving it incrementally and not turning it over. And like also too, Quinn Ewers has to hit the shots when he takes them. Like he has underthrown some balls that should have been touchdowns in multiple situations.
The critical interception yesterday was an underthrow. There was an underthrow earlier in the end zone that probably should have been picked off. They were lucky that the receiver actually did a decent job of playing DB on that. I think it was Isaiah Bond. I think they were throwing at Isaiah Bond in that particular case. But yeah, the underthrows he's got to be careful with because against Ohio State, those are picks every time.
Yeah. So I'm actually kind of surprised that there hasn't been more arch package. Like if you don't want to go all the way and just say, hey, Arch is the starting quarterback now, I'm surprised there hasn't been drives or looks or formations or even plays where he comes in and does something to catch the defense off guard when his offense needs a spark.
I think it's a case of Quinn's ankle being better and feeling Quinn's more mobile. I mean, you saw Quinn score a rushing touchdown on a scramble yesterday. So I think that's probably the reason you haven't seen the arch package that much, because the arch package was put in the Texas A&M game out of necessity. Because
what happened?
He scored a touchdown.
Wasn't it 2?
Did he score 2 against A&M?
I thought it was.
He was good against it.
Yeah, it was good.
But,
yeah. I mean, even Quinn Ewers, they could inject stem cells into his ankle tomorrow and it'd be 100%. Like he can't move like Arch. So like I'm just trying to come up with solutions for a stagnant offense. So if you think that that's just offensive line has to get healthier and Quinn has to be more accurate, then I can ride with that. But like that's what
I just don't. I don't think Steve Sarkisian agrees with you, and I trust his evaluation better than yours. So.
But my evaluation is that they're not doing a very good job of scoring at all, and like for a long time. So if that's just who they are, then fine. But like, how did you watch that Ohio State performance yesterday and think, they shouldn't do anything to switch things up? And I'm sure they will.
Listen, they're going to have to come out and play their best game. If Texas wants to even be competitive in this game, they're going to have to play their best game, because Ohio State is. If this version of Ohio State is the one we're going to see the rest of the way, that's a dragon right there, an absolute dragon.